Self-confidence and self-worth are completely different. We so easily confuse the two, and understanding the difference is literally the one thing that will change everything in your life. There are so many of us, myself included, who have actually done so much great work to build self-confidence. But then we sabotage things, we stay stuck, we don't get what we want because we don't realize, oh, I have a whole lot of self-confidence, but I actually don't have strong self-worth. And they're very different. They're very, very different. So self-worth is truly the one thing that can change everything in your life. In your life, your relationships, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your amount of joy and fulfillment. So in Worthy, which is all about, how to believe you're enough and transform your life, there's simple steps that give life-changing results. There is an entire chapter called The One Thing That Changes Everything. And I break down, and I'm going to share right now in this video as well, but I go deep in here on breaking down the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Both are important, but so many of us literally live our entire lives just building self-confidence. And then we never realize, why don't we feel like we're enough? We keep accomplishing more and more and more, and we finally do enough and have enough and become enough and all that, but we still don't feel like we're enough. It's because of not understanding the difference, and it's because of doing all the things that build self-confidence, but none of the things that build self-worth. So let me just break this down for a minute, because this is so important, okay? Self-confidence, while an internal trait, is actually based on so much happening around you externally, and it fluctuates all the time. Self-confidence, while an internal trait, is based on so much externally. So your self-confidence right now is based on things like your own assessment of your skills and abilities, your willingness to try and go for it. If you keep the promises you make to yourself, how you feel you stack up or compare to others, how much of the world's definition of success you believe you have. All those things impact your self-confidence. It can rise and fall quickly based on if you're winning or losing, right? There's studies that show the boxer who wins the match is automatically 30% more confident, right? Your confidence fluctuates. It's fragile. It's volatile. Your self-worth is the deep internal belief in knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Not as you achieve, not as what's happening all around you in the outside world, but knowing you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Another way to put this is self-confidence is your belief in your abilities as a person. Self-worth is your belief in your value as a person. Your self-worth is the foundation. Your self-confidence is the house you build upon it. But you'll only ever be as strong as the foundation that house is built upon. And here's what this looks like in our lives, right? So many of us, let me just ask you this question right off the top. Have you ever had something you really wanted, and you thought, if I eventually get that thing, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be fulfilled. Then I'll feel enough. Maybe it is a job title, or it's a certain number in the bank account, or it's, six-pack abs, a certain goal weight. Maybe it is, running the triathlon or doing the triathlon. Maybe it's getting the white picket fence or getting married or, falling in love or having 2.5 kids. Have you ever wanted that thing and just thought, one day when I get that, then I'll finally feel happy and fulfilled? And then for so many of us, we've had those things and then we get the thing, right? For some of us, we work really, really hard for years and we finally get the thing. And let me ask you this, when you finally got the thing, then what happened? Were all your hopes and dreams did they miraculously happen? Were you happy and fulfilled and enough forever? Or did you feel this temporary high, followed by a slow descent back to feeling like something's missing and like you don't know what's missing, but you just feel like you're not enough and something's missing from your life. Okay, here's why. It's because in the pursuit of all those things, you built a whole lot of self-confidence, but none of those things build self-worth. Self-confidence is really, really important in life, as is growth, always growing in one area or another, as is contributing to something greater than yourself. Those three things are really important, but you multiply all those by your level of self-worth to get your level of ultimate fulfillment in life. Building strong self-worth is truly the one thing that changes everything. It's why I wrote Worthy. There's over 20 tools in here on how to build strong self-worth, because here's the deal. When you don't, and by the way, there have been so many times in my life where I had so much confidence and I didn't understand why I didn't feel enough, or I didn't understand why I sabotaged an opportunity, or I didn't understand why I stayed stuck and didn't put my art or my ideas or my full expression of my business out there. It's because we will not, over time, we will not perform to the level of our potential. We will plateau at the level of our self-worth. Every time, over time. Every time, over time. It's why you've seen people out there in the world that can achieve everything, have every level of what the world defines success as, fame, fortune, whatever it might be. And they're not happy. And they're not happy, right? Strong self-worth is literally the one thing that changes everything. And if you are wondering if this is an issue in your life, there's really three ways that low self-worth can show up, right? One, if we have really, really, really low self-worth, we'll stay stuck. We'll know we have great ideas or we're deserving of an amazing romantic relationship, but we'll stay stuck in one that's not good for our soul. And we don't realize it's because we actually don't fully feel we're worthy of a great relationship, right? We'll stay stuck and not go after the thing. We'll stay stuck and not write the first word of our book that we know we're born to write. We'll just stay stuck and never go for the thing because we don't believe we're worthy of it. We don't realize that's what it is, but that's so often what it is. So that's one way of staying stuck, right? Another way is if we have, a little bit more self-worth, maybe low self-worth, we'll actually go for things and then we'll sabotage them. We'll meet a really incredible potential partner and we'll somehow mess it up or put them in the friend zone. We literally sometimes just aren't even attracted to them and we don't know why, even though they're a great person. It's because when deep down inside we have low self-worth, we don't believe we're worthy of it. Or we'll go after a big opportunity and we'll be so confident doing it and then we'll just somehow sabotage it. And then if you have medium self-worth, but it's not quite high, you'll actually go for things. You'll accomplish them, right? You may even believe you're worthy of them. But if you only have medium level self-worth, you'll arrive at them and still feel like you're not enough. You'll still feel empty inside. There's so many people in marriages or in, incredible situations in their career where they feel like something's missing, like it's not enough. And they don't know what it is. So they think it's their partner or they think it's their job, right? What it is deep down inside, they haven't done the work to build strong, unshakable self-worth. Your self-worth is the one thing that literally changes everything. So step one is to be aware of the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Your self-worth is your unremitting identity and your belief that you are enough exactly as you are. And by the way, when you learn to believe you're enough exactly as you are, it doesn't prevent you from being ambitious. It actually gives you more ambition because you're not afraid to fail because it doesn't impact your self-worth. You're not afraid to put yourself out there to go for things, even if you fall flat on your face, because that might hurt your confidence for a minute, but it does not determine your self-worth. Your self-worth is deep, it's internal, it's unwavering. It's why I wrote Worthy, because literally when you learn to build your self-worth, there's over 20 tools in here on how to do it. It is the one thing that transforms everything. Do you believe the lie that you should only be seen when you're happy, right? Do you ever hide all your other emotions and maybe put on this sort of fill in your name uniform of the person you feel like everyone wants you to show up as? even though inside you might be feeling a whole lot of other things. Well, here's the deal. We live in a culture right now that sort of like has these two juxtapositions. We're seeing all of this heartbreaking, horrific news happening all the time. And then we have good vibes only signs everywhere. And, I'm so much and such a proponent about positivity and about choosing the meaning we attach to things and all that. But it's also so important to know that you are worthy of being who you truly are, saying how you truly feel, meaning what you say, right? And showing up and believing you're worthy of showing up as who you really are in your friendships, in your relationships. Like, it's so important, because every time we put on a mask and pretend to be somebody else, every time we hide the messy parts of our life, every time we think we should only be seen when we're happy, and then we show up inauthentically, whether it's in a friendship or in our job or in a relationship, on social media, doesn't matter where it is. Anytime you show up inauthentically, you are actually telling yourself you are unworthy of being who you truly are and feeling what you really feel, right? And it starts to chip away at your self-worth. And self-worth is everything, because in life, we don't soar to the level of our goals and dreams. We stay stuck at the level of our self-worth. We don't rise to what we believe is possible. We fall to what we believe we're worthy of. And part of building really strong self-worth is identifying and unlearning all the lies that lead to self-doubt, and then igniting, waking up and embracing all the truths that wake up worthiness. So in my book, Worthy, there is an entire chapter. There's a whole section on the lies, by the way, unlearning the lies that lead to self-doubt. And one of those lies is, I should only be seen when I'm happy. And what does that look like? That looks like we might desperately want connection with a friend, but we wait to call them because we just don't want to burden them with our problems. Or we don't want to lower their vibration, or we don't want to bring them down. So then we hide, we feel lonely, and then we either put a mask on and call them and act like everything's great, or answer the call when they call, act like everything's great. Or we just wait until we have something positive or uplifting or great news to share with them. As a result, loneliness is at an all-time high. In fact, right now, 75% of us, right? You look at studies, 75% of us say that we'll only show our happy or positive emotions, and we'll literally hide or bury the negative or other, perceived negative emotions. I love the quote by Glennon Doyle that says, being human isn't about feeling happy, it's about feeling everything. And learning to know that you are worthy and that you are enough to feel everything is so important. Showing up as who you authentically are, fully you, is actually the only way to create a true human connection with another human, a true connection, right? We have all of these sort of false, unfulfilling connections that we might feel on social media, or we might feel if we're showing up as only part of who we are, but not all of who we are. And again, I said this a minute ago, but every time you show up inauthentically, you are telling yourself you're not worthy of being who you are. So it does slowly chip away at your self-worth. It's so important to know you are worthy of all of your feelings. They're all valid. The positive ones, the negative ones, the times when you just need to vent and have someone hear you, the times when you feel heartbroken, the times when you feel insecure, right? We all feel those. And we're kind of in this society where we're wearing these good vibes only shirts, and they're super cute. I have a few. But when we're only wearing those, we start to think that we're not worthy of showing up unless we're only feeling good vibes. And that's just not true. It is so important right now, today, to make the decision. Well, first of all, just be aware of it. Like, am I only showing up when I feel like I have something positive to share with someone? And am I feeling alone or hiding who I am, or not calling the friend back, or not answering the text, or not answering the call, or not answering the email, or declining the invitation when I feel like I'm just not in that positive state? And I don't want anyone to see me in anything other than a positive state. There's a recipe for loneliness. So today, just to kind of do a check and go, am I showing up for my true friends, the people I trust, the people I love, as all of who I am? Am I sharing times when I'm down and times when I'm up? Am I sharing how I really feel and saying what I really mean? And if the answer is no, decide if that's an old story, an old lie you want to unlearn, that you are only worthy of showing up when you're happy. Because it's a lie. You're worthy of showing up exactly as you are, right? And then today, make that decision to take one step. You could just take one small step forward of deciding, I'm going to call a friend up who I trust, and I'm going to actually share what I really feel. Or I'm going to share, I'm kind of insecure today, or I'm kind of down today. Right? And one tip, and I talk about this, and I go in deep in the chapter in Worthy called I Shall Only Be Seen When I'm Happy, the lie, and how to unlearn that lie. But one of my friends, Glow Atano, talks about how she does what she calls a capacity check, right? Have you ever had, because by the way, listening can actually be depleting. Studies show it's depleting on the listener. So listen, I'm a good listener, by the way. Listeners are heroes. My husband's a great talker. I'm a great listener. Listeners are heroes. It's also depleting to listen. And so one tool as you start to implement this in your life, where you start really sharing how you're really feeling, the good, the bad, the insecure, the excited, all of it, right, is what's called a capacity check, what Glow, my friend Glow, calls a capacity check, which means, when you call someone up, or it could be your partner at home or your friend, you just ask them like, hey, I have something kind of, serious I want to share, or heavy on my heart. Do you have capacity right now for a conversation? And then they might say yes, they might say no, they might say, oh, you know what? I'm super going a million miles an hour right now, but can we talk tonight at 6 p.m.? Like, you just kind of check, do you have capacity for a conversation that's not just happy? You know what I mean? And doing that capacity check is huge. I actually started doing it in my marriage. Sometimes when my husband Paulo will come up to me, I'll say, okay, do you want to just vent? Do you want me to give you advice? Do you want me to just listen? Here's how much capacity I have right now. And if you need more than that, let's pick a time, kind of thing. And I'll ask him the same thing. And it's been, huge for us. And, if you don't want to start asking this right away in your relationships, you could ask others to do it for you. Can you, check in with me and say capacity check? But if you aren't ready to do that yet, you can just start doing it, right? You can just call them up and say, hey, do you have capacity? Kind of a thing. But if you have a friend that maybe is always calling you and wants to just dump all the time, well, that's when you can kind of start to implement those boundaries. You can start by just setting the example yourself and just saying, hey, I want to share something with you, but I want to do a capacity check. Do you have capacity for this conversation? And then you kind of ease into it, and you eventually ask them, hey, would you mind just checking in with me if I have capacity for something that's heavy right now? And you just kind of build trust, and you build connection, and you speak your truth. And, it's the most beautiful thing that I know for so many of us who are raised people pleasers, or who believe, especially girls and women, we're taught like, just smile, just be quiet. Like, I have so many memories growing up of being a little girl, and I'd walk into a supermarket, and if I wasn't smiling for a second, some adult would say, smile, like as if that's my job. We're taught we should only be seen if we're happy. It's a lie, and it's a lie that leads to disconnection. It's a lie that leads to us showing up inauthentically and chipping away at our self-worth. So the time to unlearn that lie has come, because you deserve to be seen when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're insecure, when you're lonely, all the emotions, the good and bad. You are fully worthy of every single one of them.
I really want to go through the lies that we tell ourselves.
Yes.
So number one, I'd love to start with the need to please them in order for them to love me.
People pleasing is almost always a betrayal to ourselves. We are raised, and so often as girls and women, but when you actually look at the data, over 50% of women believe they're a people pleaser, but over 40% of men do as well. So we are raised to think, oh, I just need to make everyone else happy, and then I'll be loved, right? At our core, we all want love and belonging. And one of the big lies is I need to please everyone else in order to be loved, or in order to be worthy, in order to be enough. And here's the problem with that, is so often we spend our lives, trying to please everyone else, but then actually betraying ourselves. and we become disconnected from who we are, right? And so the more we people please for others, when it's incongruent with who we are and what we really feel, the more we tell ourselves that we're actually not worthy of saying what we mean, of being who we are. And it chips away at our self-worth slowly but surely. So it is a huge lie that we tell ourselves that, okay, if I just make everyone else happy, then I'll be happy, then I'll be loved. And it's actually the opposite. And what's beautiful is and I go into Worthy deep and how to do this. How do you truly learn to, not people please at the expense of betraying yourself? And when you learn to do that, your relationships get stronger, your self-worth rises, right? You're able to have a deeper connection with other people, because when you show up inauthentically, which is a lot of times what people pleasing is, you actually create a barrier of disconnection between yourself and that other person. So we think people pleasing, especially a lot of us as little girls and women were raised to get approval when we make other people happy. But long term, it doesn't feel like love. Long term, it does not. And so a lot of us get disconnected even from who we are because we're so good at trying to make everyone else happy, but then not knowing even who we are and what we want.
Dude, this is so strong. And I'd love to dig even deeper and say, how do we do that? Because you even said, in that moment, sometimes when you've pleased someone, let's say you're in a relationship and you've really done something that it doesn't feel in alignment, but the other person is giving you the accolades. They're telling you how amazing you are for doing this thing that actually doesn't feel good to you. And so it becomes almost like a bit of a downward spiral, or you just double up, right? Because you're like, oh, well, they made me feel good about myself when I did this. I really like the feeling of feeling good with myself, so I'm just going to do it again. But long term, like you said, it actually doesn't align. So how do you start to break that? What are the things that, in fact, let's just take a random Wednesday, Jamie.
Yes.
So random Wednesday, you're a people pleaser. You get your validation from other people, from them applauding you. You wake up on a Wednesday and you've got all these habits, right? Where it's like you're used to, let's say you're a mom, taking care of the kids first, taking maybe care of your partner, maybe going to work, earning the money, coming home. You get into these habitual patterns. So how do you actually even start to break that?
The very first thing is to start asking yourself, how does this feel to my soul? Because when we do something really great for someone else, it could be a great thing. If I know my husband likes, something, a banana with peanut butter on it or whatever, great. When we do things that are kind for other people, but it feels aligned with our soul, that's great. It's great to text our friends, and uplift them. It's great to do all that. But when you get still and ask yourself, am I doing something that actually is incongruent with how I really feel? That's people pleasing at the expense of betraying yourself. And so often people say, oh, do you want to come over for coffee? Or do you want to do this? Or do you want to do that? Or can you volunteer for this? Or can you donate to this? And we want to say no, but we say yes. And when what we do comes at the expense of our own truth, that's when it can chip away at our self-worth. And a lot of us have learned to do that our whole lives, right? And so that is where it causes problems in your self-worth. That is when it creates barriers of disconnection in relationships. And we all know, and for most of us, we've done this, we've gotten in a relationship, and the stereotypical story you'll see in a movie where the girl just all of a sudden loves this kind of music because her boyfriend's into it. Or she starts dressing a certain way because that's what he wants, right? And in the beginning of a relationship, it might appear to make him happy, but long term, it either never works out or it works out at the expense of her own soul, right? So these things that might make someone else happy in the short term, long term, we're living a lie. We're creating a barrier of disconnection. And so it's so important because we start to believe I need to please them in order to love me. And it is a lie. It is a big lie, right? When we please someone else and then end up not loving ourselves because of it, it literally will lower our self-worth slowly but surely. The very first step is identifying how does this feel and just paying attention. Because for most of us, we become so numb to just saying the thing that makes the other person happy, saying the thing that's not true, but we're not aware of what does that cost us,
how many of us women ignore that intuition, that gut feeling?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think that that's so strong in just starting there, because I think sometimes you've been, you have a belief system that no, you are supposed to do or you should do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And that supposed to and should, I think, is part of what you're saying, where it's like we show up in service of everybody else except for ourselves.
Right.
And I have a quote of yours that really freaking hit me. I want to be loved more than I want to be me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. In Worthy, the book, I share a story about how my mother-in-law is very into eating healthy and is all the things, and I am not so much. And we were at a holiday gathering, and there was broccoli and berries, and then there was these cinnamon rolls. And I kept looking at the cinnamon rolls, and I just felt like if I eat it, she's going to judge me. And I have to go with the broccoli. And I write this whole story about how in that moment, I chose to be what I thought was loved more than I chose to be me. And I talk about how every time we do this, we think that we're going to be loved. We think we're creating approval or connection with the other person when all we're doing is betraying ourselves and creating a barrier of disconnection. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing about relationships is you can only, I don't care how good you are at being a people pleaser, the depth of love and connection you can have with another person can only be as deep as the depth of love and connection you have with yourself. And when you show up people pleasing for everyone else, thinking it's going to result in them loving you, before anything even happens, you start to love yourself less, right? Because you're betraying yourself. And then you're also creating a barrier of disconnection between you and them. And so for a lot of people, and especially women, right? The 50+% of women that say they're people pleasers and they struggle with it all the time. It's scary to think like, well, what if I speak my truth? And what if I offend somebody? Or what if that person doesn't like me? Or what if, right, all of those things. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, like every one of us craves love and belonging in our lives for fulfillment. We crave it in our relationships and our friendships, all of it, right? For 25 years of the Oprah Winfrey Show, that at the end of every single show, whether it was President of the United States, which she interviewed many of them, or Beyonce, or a murderer, it didn't matter who was on her show. At the very end, they were like, how was it? Was it okay? Was it okay? And she says that she realized every single person wants to know, like, did you see me? Did you hear me? Did what I say matter to you? And at our core as human beings, every single one of us wants that same thing. We want to know, like, did you see me? Did you hear me? Did what I say matter to you? And here's the problem is when we show up people pleasing and betraying ourselves, we are not showing who we truly are. We're not being seen for who we truly are. We're not saying what we really mean. And so it's impossible to create that ultimate expression of love and connection and humanity if we're showing up as something that's not who we are. When you learn to start one step at a time, right? We could do baby steps here. So for everyone watching and listening, like take this one baby step today of first just hear when you tell somebody something, how did that feel? Did that feel like the truth? Did that feel in my gut, in my soul, like what I really mean? And we are so conditioned just to, please everyone else. But when we start paying attention, we're like, oh, wait a minute. That's not what I mean. I don't want the broccoli. I want the cinnamon roll. You know what I mean? It's like we're, right? And no, I don't want to go to that movie. I want to go to this movie. Like just little things of paying attention to, wait, am I showing up as who I truly am? And then taking that baby step, right? So even today, everyone watching us and listening to us, taking that one step of just doing it once today, just one time, say your truth, even if you know that other person's going to be like, right? Because they're used to hearing what they want to hear. Just do that one thing. And you just take that baby step, one step at a time. And what happens is, there are going to be some people along the way. Maybe they're not your friends anymore. Maybe they're uncomfortable. Maybe it takes them a while to adjust. But over time, it is how you build a relationship with yourself. It is how you raise your own self-worth. And remember, in life, like, we don't rise to what we believe is possible. We fall to what we believe we're worthy of. And every time we people please someone else as a betrayal to ourselves, we tell ourselves, I am not worthy of saying what I really mean. I'm not worthy of showing up as who I really am, right? And that impacts every aspect of your life. So take that one step today, right? Say what you mean, one step at a time. And over time, you start building your self-worth and you start building that depth of connection and real friendships and real partnerships. Right now, as we're talking, how many people are in a relationship and they just feel like something's missing? And they don't know why. They don't feel the depth of connection that they crave. And it could be a romantic relationship. It could be a friendship. It could be a relationship with your family. But like, I don't understand why we're not so connected. I want that connection. But then when you stop and ask yourself, wait a minute, do I have that connection with myself? Right? And that's where we need to do the work. And slowly but surely, the more that you show up as who you truly are, then you'll see the connection with the people in your life starts to deepen and you start to feel fulfillment and you feel more fulfilled and less like something's missing.
Good. I love that. And that's why I love that story about the broccoli and the cinnamon roll, because it's a little decision. It's a little thing that maybe other people would just brush by and not think twice about. And it's like, well, it's my mother-in-law. I know that she's going to look down on me. If I choose the cinnamon roll, fine, I'll choose the broccoli. Right? And you don't realize, to your point, of the disconnection you're having with yourself, but then also to her, because you're being a false version of who you actually are.
Exactly. And so much of the time we think we need to people please someone else and this and that. And it's still a lie we're telling ourselves. I was sitting there thinking my mother-in-law is going to judge me for eating the cinnamon roll. I'm going to eat the broccoli. Meanwhile, how the story kind of wraps up is I'm like, you know what? I decide if I'm going to have an authentic connection with her, I need to show up as who I really am. I eat the cinnamon roll. I'm waiting for her to judge me. And she literally starts talking about the kids and how she could care less that I ate the cinnamon roll. So the whole time I was telling myself a story, projecting my own insecurities onto her, and creating a barrier of disconnection between me and her in the meantime, right? All because I was telling myself a lie that she was judging me, so then I was trying to please her because I wanted connection, realizing when you try to please other people, you just create disconnection.
Yeah, God, that's so freaking strong. And that goes to another lie that you talk about in the book, is that we always think we're going to be enough when. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. I'm gonna like get so fired up out of this chair.
Let's go, girl.
Okay, everybody watching and listening right now. Lisa, this is the lie. This is the lie that will take us down our entire life. This is the lie that has us thinking, okay, I just gotta do more. I just gotta achieve more. Then I'll feel enough, right? This is the lie that thinks that tells us because something's missing, it means I'm not yet enough. And oh my gosh, the lie that once I finally get the thing or achieve the thing or do the thing, then I'm enough. It is a perpetual lie that leads literally to nowhere. And so let me just start by asking like this question, right? For everyone who's listening and watching us right now, have you ever had this goal in your life and you thought, when I finally get that goal, then I'm going to be happy. Then I'm going to be fulfilled. Then I'm going to be enough. And for some people, it might be like, when I finally hit the salary level of my job. Or for some people, it might be like, oh, when I finally, get married, or when I finally have the white picket fence, or when I finally have 2.5 kids, or when I finally, get that degree, or when I finally get that dream car, or the 6-pack abs, or that certain fit, whatever it is, when I finally get that thing, like then I'm going to be happy. Then I'm going to be enough. Then I'm going to be worthy. And then what happens for so many of us, right? And everyone think about that thing right now or different examples in your life. But for so many of us, we work so hard. And for some of us, we spend a lot of time and a lot of years. And then what happens? We finally get that thing. We finally get that job title or that number in our bank account or that number on the scale or the 6-pack abs, the relationship, and we finally get it. And then what happens? Like, does it, right? And think about this in your own life. Did it solve all your problems? Did it make you happy? Did you finally feel like, yes, I feel fulfilled and I can ride off into the sunset in full fulfillment and bliss? For most of us, the answer is no, right? We arrive at the thing and then we go, okay, and we're happy. And for some of us, we're super happy for maybe a year or a month or a week or a few hours. And then we're right back there to feeling like, okay, that didn't fulfill everything. I still don't feel like I'm enough. So then what do? Right? I still don't feel fulfilled. We think, I've just got to achieve more. I just got to take it to the next level. Then that will be enough. And this becomes a perpetual cycle. So here's the deal. Here's the lie. Here's how I change it. Because this is big. Self-worth is the one thing that changes everything. And when you look at overall fulfillment in life, you always need to be growing, right? And that could be growing in your faith, growing in a hobby, growing in how you show up in the world, growing in your fitness goals, whatever it is. But we always need to be growing. This is for ultimate fulfillment. We always need to be contributing to something beyond ourselves, which could be in the form of some type of service or in the form of being a friend to someone who doesn't have one. It could be in the form of donating. It could be whatever, but always about something bigger than ourselves. So contribution, growth. We always need to be building self-confidence, which is so important. But those three things combined are multiplied by our level of self-worth for ultimate fulfillment. And when I say that in life, we don't become what we want, we become what we believe we're worthy of, self-worth is the foundation to everything. It's truly the foundation. And so many of us are really good at doing all the things that build self-confidence, like getting the job title, getting the marriage, getting the kids, getting the fitness goals, getting the six-pack abs. Self-confidence can fluctuate based on our skills and abilities, if we're winning or losing, if our willingness to try and go for it. Self-confidence, even though it's internal, it's based so much on the external things happening around us. Self-worth is deep, internal, unwavering. It's us believing we are worthy of love and belonging exactly as we are. Not as we achieve, not as our past mistakes and failures, exactly as we are. And self-worth in so many ways is the foundation, and self-confidence is like the house we build upon it, right? Here's the thing. From the moment we are born into our world, and especially those of us in the US or any country that's like super driven, right, by socioeconomic success and all the other things, we are taught that if we achieve the thing, get the thing, then we'll be happy. So we're raised seeing advertisements all around us that tell us when we get the six-pack abs, or when we get that dream car, or when we hit that number in our bank account, and we continue to think all those things will bring us fulfillment, when really they all bring us a lot of confidence, which is important, right? And when we're doing them and impacting others, they bring us, contribution, and we're growing. Those are all important. But if underneath it all, we don't believe we're enough as we are, if underneath it all, we don't have strong self-worth, what that looks like is perpetual unfulfillment the rest of our lives. And there are so many perfectionists right now, probably listening and watching us, so many people that think like, okay, if I just achieve enough, then I'll be enough. If I just get and then they arrive at it and it's not. So then they go for the next thing and then it's still not. And they live their entire lives and arrive at the end of their life with a whole lot of cool things, but never actually feeling fulfillment and always feeling like something's missing. So it is important to do all of these things that build self-confidence, that do all that. It's important. But if you don't learn how to completely build rock solid, unshakable self-worth underneath it all, you will never, no matter how much you achieve, you'll never arrive feeling fulfilled. You'll never be able to fully enjoy it. Here's the other part of this. I have to do all this to be enough, which is a lie I believed most of my entire life. And a big reason, Lisa, that I wrote Worthy is because believing this lie, if I do enough, then I'll be enough. Like believing that, and for me, not understanding the difference between self-confidence and self-worth had me arriving at all these crazy dreams I could have only imagined happening, and not understanding, why don't I feel like it's enough? And why don't I feel like I'm enough, right? And just to share a couple examples, I remember building at cosmetics and years and years and years of rejections, finally building it to a company with over 1,000 employees, right? Selling it to L'Oreal for over $1 billion cash. I got to that moment where I thought, this is it. I had sold my company for all this money and was on in Forbes and all the magazines, all these things. And I had so much self-confidence. And I got invited to Oprah's house for lunch. And I was like, this is my lifelong dream. And I went to her house. We had a 3-hour lunch, just me and her. At the end of the lunch, Lisa, she gave me her cell phone number and she said, call me anytime. You can call me anytime. I'm like, okay, like, freaking out, right? And now I had a lot of self-confidence. Everything on the outside was going so well. But what I didn't know is that is very different than self-worth. And even though a lot was going well, underneath it all, I didn't fully feel worthy. And so here's what happened. She gives me her cell phone number. My lifelong dream is like happening. I did not call her for 4 years. I literally didn't call her for 4 years. And this is what happens when we don't believe we're worthy underneath everything else. We will sabotage opportunities. We will stay stuck. We will not go for things and not understand why. And after 4 years, during that whole stretch where I didn't call her, I would tell myself stories like, okay, once I have the perfect thing to say, then I'll call her. That's why I'm not calling her. I just don't have the perfect thing to say. Or she probably thinks everyone wants something from her. So I'm going to prove I don't, and I'm not going to call. Like all these stories I would tell myself. And 4 years later, I realized that the reason I hadn't called her was because deep down inside, I did not feel worthy of being her friend. And the moment I realized that, number one, like I realized very quickly that's a lie. Like I am a kick-ass friend. You know what I mean?
You are, girl.
And in that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, my self-doubt and my thoughts, which we are not our thoughts, but our thoughts can convince us we are them sometimes. And my self-doubt and my thoughts had gotten so loud and were telling me I wasn't worthy of it. But that moment when I realized it, I felt in my soul, which is very different. In my soul, my knowing, like, oh, I am more than worthy of being her friend or anybody's friend. I'm a great friend, right? And that was the moment I picked up the phone and called her. I came so close to doubting myself out of my own destiny, even though I had built all these things that the world would say look like enough. So I must feel like I'm enough, right? And I still didn't. And I didn't know why. So it's a perpetual lie that we just need to keep getting enough, achieving enough, hitting enough goals to finally feel enough. All of those things are important. They all build self-confidence, which is really, really important. But nothing you can achieve will build self-worth.
I got so many questions here. Okay, where do I even start? So first of all, how did you start to identify those were excuses that you were giving yourself and that it actually came from the self-worth? Because I'm sure so many people listening right now, it may trigger some people going, oh my God, yes, I do it. But there's other people that even right now, the excuse that they're telling themselves, they actually believe. And I have utter compassion, right? It comes from I mean this in a sweet way, I guess, but like it comes from a broken place where you feel broken enough where you don't feel whole, you don't feel complete, you don't feel worthy to be able to then be a great friend. So how did you start to recognize that those were excuses? And then how did you pivot going from I'm not enough to call her to immediate, like for 4 years, and then you pick up the phone and call? What's that gap?
Yeah. So the gap is this. I just didn't know, right? And I didn't realize, oh, I'm telling myself excuses.
Exactly.
I actually believed them.
Right. That's the worst freaking excuse.
Yeah. I believed them. They're lies. I believed, just like my whole life, oh, when I achieve enough, then I'll feel enough. All of those things. And so it was a moment that hit me like a ton of bricks where I feel like, Oprah calls them aha moments. I would describe it as a moment my knowing surpassed my conditioned belief system.
Ooh,
I would define an aha moment as and we've all had them, right? The moment your knowing surpasses your conditioned belief system. And sometimes they come out of the blue and they hit us like a ton of bricks, right? And sometimes we work really, really hard to tune in and to hear our own gut and say, what is the truth, right? They can come in different forms. This was a moment that hit me like a ton of bricks. And in that moment, it took everything out of me to literally, I imagined myself in that moment, Lisa, turning down the volume as if it was a volume dial, turning down the volume on my own self-doubt and my thoughts, right? And turning up the volume on my knowing or my intuition that said, you are worthy of being her friend because I know that's the truth. And right now, every single person listening to us, watching us right now, if you get still and you tune into that knowing, not in your thoughts in your head that our whole lives we've been conditioned to learn we're not enough, right? 80% of women do not believe they're enough right now. And it is a lie, right? But I'm not enough, that comes in the form of our belief systems and our thoughts, but that is not who you are. Every single person right now, if you get still for a moment and you tune into your gut, to your knowing, to your intuition, it'll tell you right now, oh, you are more than enough. You are fully worthy exactly as you are, like exactly as you are. And when we learn to trust that and to trust that knowing, it changes everything. So that moment when I decided to call her, it was like I literally imagined just turning down the volume on my self-doubt. I was like, I am not listening to this anymore. And just tuning into that knowing, right? And just like putting that on full blast that says, I know I'm a great friend. Like, I know I'm worthy of calling Oprah. And that's when I just picked up the phone and did it and just took that step and did not let my self-doubt doubt me out of my own destiny. And it's one step at a time. Every person right now today, we're going to do this. Like literally, we're going to do this. Like no girl, no woman, no person left behind in knowing they're worthy. Because when you believe you are worthy, the second you decide to believe you are worthy is the moment every single area of your life changes. It's the moment past and future generations of your family change. Like the second we believe we're enough is the second it changes everything. It impacts everything. Because again, we do not rise to what we believe is possible. We fall to what we believe we're worthy of.
Everything that you've just said, it may resonate for a moment, right?
Yeah.
Everyone listening, like inspiration, motivation, we know is beautiful.
Yeah.
But when that person leaves, after they finish watching this interview
Yes.
and they're sitting by themselves and they get that ding, they get someone telling them they're not good enough.
Yes.
How the hell do they make sure they don't stay there? That's why I like to go deep, so that they've then got these tactics to then go back to.
I love this so much. There is a masterclass in this book and a whole framework on the 4 R's where you go deep into how do you identify your current definition of rejection? How do you redefine it? How do you revisit past rejections and redefine them? How do you become fearless over rejection and failure in your life, right? Because part of my journey was hundreds and hundreds of no's and rejection over years building It Cosmetics. A lot of times when people Google the story, they're like, oh, it's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, not so much, right? But a lot of us, we fear rejection and failure as something that is painful. So then we avoid doing stuff at all costs. We stay stuck. I so easily could have been in that Oprah situation, could have still not called her for 4 years, and could be sitting here with you right now thinking, oh yeah, I just got to, I'm just still not enough. I got to achieve more. I got to do more. I got to accomplish more. Then I'll call her, right? I would still be thinking I need to do all the things that build confidence or whatever, but not understanding, oh wait, it's a self-worth issue. And not understanding the difference. I want to say one thing before I forget too, is you're using this example of the train, right? And you get off or you get on and here's the thing too, is like, oh my gosh, for everyone listening, I keep like hitting your couch. I'm getting so excited. But for everyone listening and watching us right now, how many times have the train doors open and we didn't get on because we didn't feel we were worthy of it? We didn't feel we hesitated, we held back, and who freaking knows what would have happened if we stepped on because we believe we're worthy of it and the doors closed and we go to a whole new destination, right? That is why I'm so passionate about this, about building self-worth, because so many of us have doubted ourselves out of so many things in our destiny. You know, I mean, I came so close to never calling Oprah, right? And in my case, that was a lifelong dream I was sabotaging. I would have never then taught a course with her, all the things. I would have been on a different train. I wouldn't have been on a train teaching course with Oprah, which for me means so much. So how many things for you and everybody listening mean so much, but you didn't get on the train yet? And the doors are open. And then they close and the train takes off. But the good news is, just like a train schedule, there's another one coming. So how do you believe you're worthy of stepping on that train when it pulls right up to you and when the doors open? Because the trains are going to keep coming. But for so many of us, it's like we still don't step on that. We still don't put our art out into the world. We still don't show up on social media as who we authentically are. We still don't tell the person we want to be more than just friends. right? We still don't register the domain for our business. We still don't set that boundary with the family member, right? We still don't, turn the lights on in the bedroom. We still don't put the swimsuit on in summer, right? All those things. And we're missing the train. We're missing the train. And that is what self-worth will do. Time for change has come, Lisa Bilyeu. Right here, right now on Women of Impact, time for change has come. Literally, when you build your self-worth, it changes everything.
I want to dive into this idea of worthy, of how can we feel worthy if there's so many people out there right now. And I know part of it is this process you just brought us through, but what is it like for yourself? What does that word worthy mean? And what's the, what are some of the ways and some of the narratives people need to adopt in order to feel worthy?
Yeah, it is. Self-worth is the one thing that literally changes everything in every other area of your life, your relationships, your business, your goals, your dreams. Like we do not, rise to what we believe is possible for us in life. We will fall to what we believe we're worthy of. And in our relationships, in our friendships, in our careers, our ambitions, our goals, our dreams, like we don't soar to the level of those goals and dreams. We stay stuck at the level of our self-worth. And another way to put it that I talk a lot about in Worthy in the book is how in life we actually don't become what we want. We become what we believe we're worthy of. And there are a lot of people that maybe know what they want and they think that's enough. Or then they take action and they work so hard and build all the skills and the confidence to be really good at it. And then they may even go a step further and know their why for why they're doing what they're doing, which is so important. But all of that isn't enough often to get the thing you want unless you also learn to believe you're worthy of it. And a couple big things that I want to share, and I wrote Worthy. It's packed with 20 tools on how to build self-worth. And I go over all of the lies that lead to self-doubt and how do you ignite those truths that wake up worthiness? Because what I've seen happen and what I lived through, and I think so many entrepreneurs or passionate people or high achievers or perfectionists have gone through this, what I'm about to share. And a lot of people go through it their whole life and never understand why they still, no matter how much they achieve, no matter how much they accomplish, no matter how many of their big dreams have happened, they still don't feel enough. They still feel like something's missing. And one of the biggest epiphanies I've ever had in my life was after I thought I had accomplished all of it. The company sold for $1 billion. I got invited to lunch with Oprah, which I had dreamed of my whole life. I'd been on the Forbes list, like you shared. All these things were happening. I finally, I was very confident. And let me just pause for a minute, okay? Because this is so important. So many of us confuse self-confidence with self-worth, and they're very different. So many of us think what we need is more self-confidence, but what we actually need is self-worth. And really quickly, and this is huge for your business, for your life, for your fulfillment, for your joy. Self-confidence, while it's an internal trait, is based so much on the external. It's based on our own assessment of our skills and abilities, based on how we think we stack up and compare to others and measure up against others, our willingness to try and go for it, our ability to keep promises to ourselves, how much of the world's definition of success we have. And our confidence is actually fragile. It's volatile. It rises and falls all the time, right? There's a study that shows the boxer who wins the match is automatically 30% more confident. Our confidence fluctuates. Our self-worth is the deep internal knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, not as you achieve, not as what's happening all around you, exactly as you are, exactly as God made you. And if you think right now, and just to ask everyone this question, if you've ever had a big goal or dream and you thought, once I get that thing, then I'll be happy, then I'll be fulfilled, then I'll be enough. And for some people, it's their business hitting a certain threshold, or for other people, it's when I finally find that romantic partner, or when I get married or have kids, or get the 6-pack abs, or the dream car, whatever it is. And then you work so, so, so hard, whether it's for months or years or decades, and you finally get that thing. And then what happens? If you arrive at that thing and you're like, I thought this was going to solve all my problems and make me feel so happy and fulfilled and fully enough. And then we get there, and for a lot of us, we're happy for like a month or a week. And before we know it, we're back to feeling like something's missing. And if this has ever happened to you, it's because in the pursuit of those goals and dreams, we build a lot of confidence, we have a lot of growth. Those things are really important, but none of them build self-worth. And if we fundamentally do not believe we are enough as we are, which is a lie, by the way, but if we believe that, it does not matter how much we accomplish, how much of the world's definition of fame, success, money, contentment, whatever it is that we achieve, you still take you with you. And so many people have built all this self-confidence, and they feel like something's missing in their lives. So then they think something must be missing in my marriage. I'm feeling like it's not enough, or I'm going to quit this job. I'm feeling like it's not enough. I'm feeling unfulfilled. And what they don't realize is they don't have a net worth problem. They have a self-worth problem. Like when you fundamentally do not feel you are enough underneath it all, no amount of self-confidence, no amount of achievement, no amount of the world's definition of success can ever solve that. And the way I learned this was after my entire life's dream of like meeting Oprah. Since I was a little girl, I always dreamed of it. And I had sold my company and all the things were happening that you shared in the beginning. And I was so confident, Josh. And then I got invited to her house for lunch. She and I had a 3-hour lunch. At the very end of it, she gave me her cell phone number and said, you can call me anytime. Call me anytime. And the lunch was so good. And I left there and I did not call her for 4 years. And in that 4-year window, I told myself things like, I just need to think of the perfect thing to say. Or, everyone wants something from her. I'm going to prove I don't. All those things. And 4 years later, I realized I didn't call her because deep down inside, I didn't believe I was worthy of being her friend. And here's how low self-worth shows up in our life. When we really have low self-worth, we can have all the confidence and skills and abilities and look like we're crushing it to everyone on the outside. But if underneath it all, we don't feel we're enough and we have low self-worth, we will stay stuck. We'll never go for the thing. If we have some self-worth, we'll go for the things, but we'll sabotage them, which is what I did with meeting Oprah. I had all the confidence in the world, but underneath it all, I didn't have strong self-worth at the time. Even though to the world, it looked like I must just have it all. And if we have medium to high self-worth, but not super high, what that looks like is we'll go for the things. We'll even get the things, but we arrive at them not feeling fulfilled, perpetually unfulfilled, like something's missing, like we're not enough forever. And so building self-worth, and first of all, just being aware of it. I know right now there's going to be someone listening to us that's like, oh my goodness, this episode was for me. I thought I just needed more self-confidence. I needed to achieve more, when really that's not the thing. The thing is like, how do I learn truly to believe I'm enough exactly as I am? And the last thing I'll say is a lot of people worry, well, wait, if I believe I'm enough as I am I going to lose my ambition? I don't want to lose my ambition. And it's like, no, actually, when you believe you're enough as you are, like you become more ambitious because it doesn't really, you're fearless about what will happen if you fail or fall flat on your face or any of the other things, because you know it doesn't impact your self-worth, which is unwavering. So it's really the one thing that changes everything. And the very first step, which I hope and pray is happening for someone in this episode right now too, is just that, like, wow, the awareness of this. And then going, how do I take steps to build that self-worth? And so it's really why I wrote Worthy. There's a whole chapter. There's over 20 tools in the book on how you do this. There's also a chapter for anyone who has a strong relationship and has strong faith in their life on how believing God's word over your own self-doubt can be one of the quickest self-worth shortcuts. There's so many in there, but it's just, I'm so excited to you can probably feel me like jumping out of my chair, because it's just the one thing that day I realized, wow, I don't feel worthy, was the day I became obsessed with studying self-worth. And I did call Oprah that day. We taught a course together this year. Like, so many things would have never happened because I came so close to doubting myself out of my own destiny.
And you know, building self-worth is so important because here's what I know to be true. And this is a quote straight from the book, Worthy. In life, you don't soar to the level of your hopes and dreams. You stay stuck at the level of your self-worth. You don't rise to what you believe is possible. You fall to what you believe you're worthy of. When I got this lesson in my life, after sabotaging a whole lot of stuff in my life, after getting some things I wanted, but then not understanding why I didn't feel fulfilled, or after getting some things and then literally losing them, this lesson has changed my entire life. I'm excited to share this sneak peek advanced chapter read of my book, Worthy, with you, and also dive into some incredibly powerful tools on how to build true, unshakable self-worth together. I wrote Worthy for every person who has ever doubted you're enough, for every person who's ever doubted your worthiness, and for every person who is sick and tired of what self-doubt has already cost you in your life. And I wrote Worthy after a series of powerful moments led me to consider, what has self-doubt already cost me in my life? And the answer was way too much. And if this is you too, I wrote this book with the intention of helping you feel less alone and more enough, and to share powerful tools that you can apply to your life right now to build true self-worth. So here's the thing, is I used to think I was all alone in these struggles, right? I don't know if you have them too and you feel like you're alone in them, but with deep self-doubt, like, I felt alone in that, and I used to try to hide it. And you know, once I became so much more aware, and then I became obsessed with studying self-worth and tools to build it, I learned that I am far from alone. You are too if you feel it. If you struggle with self-doubt, we are far from alone. Studies show more than 80% of women feel like they are not enough. First of all, that is why I'm donating 100% of my author proceeds of Worthy, that in big part go to programs that help build self-worth in girls and women. But it truly is the intention behind this book, because here's the thing, self-worth is the one thing that changes everything in all areas of your life. And what's beautiful and powerful is it is never too late to build it. I don't know who needs to hear this today. One of my amazing friends, Mally Roncal, always says, you are not too old, you're not too young, it's not too late, your best days are ahead. I love that quote from her. And here's the thing, it's never too late to unlearn the lies that lead to self-doubt and embrace the truths that wake up worthiness. So I wrote this book for you if you have some self-doubt to destroy and a destiny to fulfill. And I am so excited, and I'd love to start by sharing some of the most powerful tools on building self-worth and sharing sort of the high-level overview and the table of contents for Worthy, and just sort of share with you a couple lines, and in some cases some deep tools on the key takeaways so that you know what you're in store with this book. Here's the thing. With Worthy, the table of contents, I'm going to take you through it because I want you to really get it, take it in what we're expecting in this book. So part 1 of Worthy is called Seeing. This is all about self-confidence, self-worth, and self-revelations. So chapter 1 is called The One Thing That Transforms Everything. This is a chapter that lays out the foundation of self-worth and how building it truly impacts all areas of your life. And here's the thing, y'all. Okay, I gotta go deep for a minute before I continue. Self-confidence is very different than self-worth. Okay, I wanna pause for a minute and I wanna go deep here on this, because really this is the first tool that was one of the biggest breakthroughs in my life. And it really comes down to the importance of understanding the difference between self-confidence and self-worth, and how they both play out in your life right now. Okay, this one's big. See, both are so important, but they both are very different. And I've gotten so many questions from you on social media and even live questions tonight in the comments about this. So I want to go deeper for a minute. See, self-confidence, okay? Self-confidence is how you assess yourself based on your skills, your attributes, how you stack up compared to others, your willingness to try. If you keep the promises you make to yourself, self-confidence, even though it's internal, it can fluctuate by the second based on how things are going all around you, right? If you're winning or you're losing, if you're hitting your fitness goals, how much of the world's definition of success you have. And here's the thing, y'all, almost every advertisement our entire lives tells us, and well-intentioned family and friends, tells us that if we could just get the things that make us more confident, the money, that job title, the white picket fence, the perfect looking family, right? All the things people ask you when they see you, how's your job going? What about your family? Are you in a relationship, right? We're told if we get those things, then we'll be happy, then we'll be fulfilled. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever finally gotten that thing? Like you got it, like you worked so hard to get it. And then you arrive there and you realize, maybe it's after a year or a month or a week or a few hours, you realize you're still not fully happy. And it still feels like something's missing. So then what do we do in that case? We work harder and harder and harder and accomplish more and more and more. We think, I just gotta achieve more. I've just gotta get that next level. Then we arrive, and all y'all achievers out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. We arrive, and what happens? We still feel like something's missing. Here's why. It's because all of these things that we're so often striving so hard to get, they build self-confidence, which is so important to build. But none of them actually build self-worth. Self-worth is the deep, internal knowing that you are innately worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, right now, in this very moment. Not as you achieve, not dependent on anything happening around you or not happening around you or anything in the past that went well or didn't go well, but you are worthy exactly as your Creator made you. And so many women, whether you're high achievers or perfectionists or people pleasers, and really people everywhere, spend their whole lives striving and sacrificing for the things like hitting that fitness goal or getting that job title or the marriage and the kids and the dream house. And then they think, all of us do. You guys, decades of my life I did. I thought I needed to achieve to be happy. But then we achieve and we arrive going, why aren't we fulfilled? Because while we're building great self-confidence along the way, which again it's such an important component of life, but we don't realize that those things don't actually build self-worth, and we haven't learned how to build strong self-worth along the way. So both self-confidence and self-worth are such important skills to build in life, but they're both very different. Self-worth is your foundation. That is your foundation. Self-confidence is the house you build on top of it. But your house will only ever be as secure and as fulfilled as the foundation it is built upon. Understanding the difference between self-confidence and self-worth will change every aspect of your life, and learning how to build true self-worth allows you to feel fulfillment while you're achieving all the things that can only build self-confidence. This is a huge revelation, y'all, because for those of you that feel like something's missing in your life and you don't know why and you're doing all the right things, right? And then people often, I'm gonna get way off on a tangent, let me not do this, but people often will quit a job because they think, oh, that's why I'm not fulfilled. Or they'll end a marriage or end a relationship or whatever it is because they think that's why I'm not fulfilled. Something's missing in my life. And so many of the times it's because they're doing all the things that build confidence and they think that they should feel like nothing's missing. But when they do not have underlying self-worth, you can never feel true fulfillment. So here's the deal, y'all. I'm not going to go off because we'll be on here for 10 hours of a worthy watch party, but separate of your victories and achievements or past mistakes and failures, you are fully worthy. Like, true self-worth is knowing you are fully, innately worthy right now, in this very moment, exactly as you are. Whew, that is chapter 1, by the way. So let me go through some of these a little faster. But y'all, we didn't come here to play. Like, your time is precious, and decades of my life, I couldn't understand why it felt like something was missing, or why I sabotaged opportunities, etc. This has been the one thing that's changed everything in my life. So I'm just honored to share it with you. Okay, chapter 2 is called Change Your Relationship with Rejection, Change Your Entire Life. If you feel stuck in life, or if you've had, the fear of rejection or failure, or if you've ever felt like you are a failure, and I only say that because so many of you guys write in and say that to me, that you feel that way, this chapter is going to be life-changing for you. Chapter 2, called Change Your Relationship with Rejection, Change Your Life. Chapter 3 is called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. You're not crazy, you're just first. If you have ever felt like you're different, or like who you are isn't enough, or like you don't belong, this chapter reframes that and will set you free. I am going to come back in a minute, actually, because I really want to share a powerful lesson and a tool with you in words that I hope speak to your soul, that you can apply to your life right now. Chapter 4, you have greatness inside of you. This is all about how your past doesn't determine your future. It's all about how your past mistakes or past pain or past regrets, past failures doesn't determine your worthiness, and how where you come from doesn't have to determine where you're going. Okay, if you're someone who feels like you've made too many mistakes, been too hurt, or maybe you feel like you've hurt others too many times, or maybe you feel like you're somehow damaged or broken or have been carrying around shame, I share some of the things in my past for the first time ever in this chapter. And I share things that most of my family doesn't know, that many who read it might shame me for. But I'm sharing them because this book isn't about me, right? This book is about the one person reading it. Maybe that is you, who needs to know that you are not alone, right? That your past, as my dear friend Ed Milet says, your past does not disqualify you from your dreams. And this chapter, I almost deleted a few times because I know how shocking it's gonna be to a lot of people in my family. But here's the thing, y'all. The story the press loves to share about me looks like, the highlight reel, right? It looks like the highlight reel. And Denny's waitress builds billion-dollar company, and that's all true. But this isn't a book about my story. This is a book about your story, right? When I wrote Believe It, it was my journey of learning to believe in myself up until that point. Worthy is the playbook on how you can believe in you. And I just knew I cannot allow this chapter to be deleted because I know what I know. And it is for the one person, and maybe it's you, who feels like what you've done in the past and the shame you've been carrying around for it has caused you to have deep self-worth issues where you identify as someone who's broken or shameful or made too many mistakes and all that, and that you're sort of putting up this barrier of belief of how, we opened tonight talking about how in life you don't rise to what you believe is possible, you fall to what you believe you're worthy of. This chapter is about reframing and shifting what you know. I'm not even gonna say what you believe, what you know you're worthy of, regardless past mistakes or anything that's happened in the past.
I truly believe that the most important words in the world are the ones that we say to ourselves. And this, your ability to navigate rejection, your ability to, as you say, get quiet and still seems to be, both here in the show and in the book, like absolutely foundational. Give us a little bit of like, how long did you work out that muscle? Was it 3 years? Was it a lifetime? Was it just in a professional capacity, or do you make use of this in your personal life? Because as you said, not only is this story bigger than you, but it's bigger than business. It's about humanity. And, whether you're successful in business or you feel fulfilled in life, there's not that much gap between those two things. You can, if you have this skill set, I believe you can create or cultivate fulfillment in all these areas of your life. So was it professional, personal? And how long did you feel like it took before you had the resilience, or did it just happen at the right time and you just continued to hone the muscle? Give me a little bit more color there.
Yeah, I feel like it is a work in progress still. I feel like it's a lifelong journey. There are so many areas in my life where I went from just completely being overrun by self-doubt and learning how to turn down the volume on my own self-doubt. And I literally, Chase, would imagine, I talk about in the book a lot, this idea of like this imaginary microphone or this imaginary volume dial, right? And, there were times where, I got a strong rejection that hurt so bad from someone. And it's hard when somebody rejects us or says something about us, or we keep telling ourselves, things that are maybe reflections of past mistakes or past miscalculations. And we start to label ourselves as things and repeat them over and over. And, I'm still a work in progress at this, but I think, one of the tools I talk about in this book is how do you learn to really just turn down the volume on those things and interrupt them when you start to tell yourself those things, right? Or repeat words that someone else said to you, or a label someone else put on you, or a past mistake you've made. It's like, how do you turn down the volume on those things and turn up the volume on things that serve you and that remind you of who you are and your strengths and your capabilities and your, all those things. It's a work in progress for me. So I still deal with it every single day. And, there's a lot of areas professionally and personally that I've, learned to believe in myself and trust myself and know I'm enough in. And then there's other things related to body image that are still challenges for me to this day. As I've been so blessed to meet amazing people like you, like Oprah Winfrey, like there's so many people, right? And I share this, Oprah read the book cover to cover, and she was the first person that read my manuscript. And because I wanted her blessing to share a few things in the book, not about, oh, how cool is it that Oprah's my mentor, but, oh, I'm still scared to call her. I share some real stuff in this book about some real work I'm still doing in real time, because I think that we're all works in progress on this lifelong journey. And, I won't go into like all of the stuff, but I share in the book for the first time ever about how I knew my whole life. I just had a feeling I was going to meet Oprah. And when I finally did, and she invited me to her house for lunch, and we had this 3-hour lunch, just the two of us. And when I left the lunch that day, and this was 3 years ago, she gave me her cell phone number, and she said, you can call me anytime, like call me anytime. And I freaked out internally, and I was like, absolutely, thank you so much. Here's my cell phone number. And to this day, Chase, when I have something I want to share with her, I want to, say a prayer for her, I want to inspire her, or I want to ask her advice on something, or whatever it is, I will text her or email. And by the way, when she writes back over text and I see the 3 dots, like I still freak out. I screenshot it sometimes. I will text her and I will email. I have not called her. I've not called her. And I had this big realization fairly recently. And I wasn't proud of it. And I realized, oh, wow, I still don't believe deep down inside that I'm at the same like vibration level as Oprah to just call her up. And that's something I'm working on in real time because I know that's a lie. I know every one of us, every human being is worthy of calling each other up. You know what I mean? Like we're all the same. We're all connected. We're all in this life together. Like we all have the same hopes and doubts and fears and so, you know, for me, it's really a work in progress. There's a lot of areas in my life I've figured it out. And so I'm now working on applying some of those same the same principles and lessons to different areas of my life and to making better decisions. And I think too, you know, the better we get at it, we also learn to trust ourselves when not to trust ourselves, right? For, you know, starting a company with my partner. And then we both ended up working 100-hour weeks for 10 years. And I share all about that too, because a lot of people either are or are thinking about starting a dream with a friend or a family member or a partner. And, you know, that comes with so much, right? And to this day, part of why I decided to sell the company was because I learned to trust myself, to not trust myself, that if I stayed running it and owning it all, I would still probably be addicted to work and still probably be working 100-hour weeks and still probably not have had a baby, all the things. Because we tried for 10 years while working 100-hour weeks to have a baby. And it was just a crazy journey. And so anyways, you know, I made the decision in big part to sell the company because I didn't trust myself. I trusted myself enough to not trust myself that I wouldn't miss out on life. And so it's all a big journey and it's all a work in progress. And to this day, I think it will be the rest of our lives for all of us. You know, that's one of the things too, is like, I feel so grateful to be able to share all of the things I learned, all the lessons I've learned so far in life and in business that I hope and pray are of service to other people and save them, you know, nights crying themselves asleep and self-doubt and hopefully time and money and all those things. But I think that for the rest of my life, I'll be a work in progress too, still really trying to figure it all out as I go and overcome all that not enoughness that all of us have at deep levels.
It's so true that this story is so much bigger than a billion-dollar brand or, you know, overcoming obstacles. As you say, we're all in this together. But there's this, it's hard to overstate the feeling that I have about that this is, you know, in the particular, I think it's James Joyce, in the particular lies the universal. And your story is the story of so many of us.
It's an interesting distinction. This feeling of confidence, this feeling of being unstoppable and feeling worthy.
Yes.
And if you can break that down, and then if it's okay, I'd like to go through the process, you know, at least on an overview level, the process of how a person is able to change their view of themselves and the worthiness that they have. How do they reprogram themselves to be able to do that? But what's the difference between self-confidence and self-worth?
Yeah. And this is big. If someone just told me, oh, let me tell you the difference between self-confidence and self-worth, I'd be like, I don't really care. I said, they're probably the same thing. I thought that my whole life. What's the big deal? Until I realized, holy, you know what? When you know the difference, it fundamentally changes your business, your goals, your dreams. I mean, everything. This is big. This is big. So because we are constantly trying to solve our enoughness by things that build self-confidence. And it is why we arrive at a new level after a new level after a new level, still unfulfilled, still feeling like we're not enough inside, still feeling like something's missing. And it's because of this distinction that we think we need more self-confidence, but what we really need is more self-worth, because our self-worth is our ceiling. So to break it down, self-confidence, while it is so important to pursue building our entire lives, it's so important. It is, you know, it's an internal trait, but our self-confidence is largely based on the external. Our self-confidence is based on how we assess our skills and abilities. It's our willingness to try and go for it. It's how much of the world's definition of success we believe we have. It's how we feel we're stacking up and comparing and measuring to others. And our self-confidence fluctuates. It's fragile. They say the boxer who wins the fight is automatically 30% more confident, right? Our confidence it's fragile. It fluctuates. It rises. It falls. Our self-worth, on the other hand, is the deep, deep, deep belief and knowing that innately you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, not as your past mistakes or failures, not as your past regrettable incidents or the things you wish you never did, not as anything in the past, and also not as your successes and your wins and all that, but exactly as you are. I believe every one of us, as God made us, exactly as we are worthy. We are worthy. We are enough exactly as we are. Now, we can make choices. We can make choices that we regret, that are painful in our past, and we can make choices to change how we are going to show up in this world, right? When we fall flat on our face or we win something, either way, that shatters and hurts our confidence. But it does not change that we are innately made worthy. We are innately born worthy. Every single person is born fully worthy, exactly as you are. Now, you can make choices that lower your self-worth. You can make choices that lower your ceiling. And then what happens is we start to believe that is what we are worthy of. And then that is what comes out in our life, right? So you can.
Let me ask this. This. When you say worthy of what?
Enough and worthy exactly as you are. Like enough maybe is a great way to put it.
No,
exactly
here's what I'm saying. I'm saying worthy of what? Worthy of
love and belonging.
Love, belonging.
Yeah, worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Because the reason people chase wealth, after your basic human needs are met, when you really break down why a lot of people chase wealth is because they hope it brings them to arrive at the feeling of love and belonging and what they perceive that to look like, right? There's people chasing fame every single day because they want that feeling of validation or what they believe eventually will help them feel enough, will help them get that feeling of love and belonging. Underneath all that stuff, when you peel all of it back, people are hoping to get that exact same thing. That is really what drives human behavior, is at the end of the day, we want to feel loved.
If you have an actor, they're on top of the world, they're A-list and they're being admired and they're in all the top movies. And they're confident, obviously, because of the feedback loop that they're getting. But then they're not quite as much in demand. Then they're not getting the calls. Then they're not, some of them, their worth, they attach their worth to how popular they might be versus who they are as a person. Yes?
Yes.
So when you got the big payday.
And let me just say this.
Yeah, please.
Let me break this down because this will explain it to you about your question about the actor or someone selling their business for a bunch of money, or someone hitting a threshold in their business.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your big sale. And what that did. What was that like? Oh my gosh.
That boosted
in the month
my
after that. I'm curious.
Yeah, that boosted my self-confidence, but it cannot touch your self-worth. They're different. So let me explain this for a second. And after a big sale of selling my company for $1 billion, I was still sabotaging stuff in my life that I didn't, because I did not believe I was worthy, because self-worth is different than self-confidence. So for Eric, for you, for anybody listening to us right now, if you've ever had this big goal or dream, right? And because here's the thing about self-confidence, I want to break this down because it's a huge distinction and what makes self-worth so important and why self-worth is your ceiling. We believe from the time we are raised, we see commercials out there, advertisements, etc., that if we achieve those things, right? That we'll finally feel enough. And so for a lot of us, we have these big goals and dreams. And maybe it's like, oh, I want to become a CEO one day, or I want to have my business hit a certain level, or I want to get the dream car, or I want to have children and get married, or I want to have 6-pack abs. We have these big goals and dreams, and we think if I finally get that thing, then I'm going to be made in the shade. Then I'm going to all my problems will be solved. I'll be fulfilled. I'll have hit that level. I'll finally feel enough. I'll finally feel happy. And for most of us, maybe we've worked decades to get one of those goals, or years, right? Or months, but we've worked really, really hard. And for those of us who have finally hit and achieved one of those goals, whether it's getting married, whether it's the job title, the level in our business, some type of fame on social media, whatever it is, what happens? We get it and we're happy. Usually we're happy for a little bit. And before we know it, we're back to feeling like something is missing, like it's not enough, like we're not enough. And it's because the pursuit of all those things builds self-confidence, which is really important. When we're pursuing those things, we're often growing. A lot of times we're contributing to something bigger than ourselves. All those things are important and build self-confidence. But underneath it all, none of those things that we achieve build self-worth, which is different. And the way I can describe it is almost like your self-confidence is the house you're building with all the rooms and the artwork and the this and that. Your self-worth is the foundation beneath that house. And your house will only ever be as secure as the foundation it's on top of. And the way that this shows up, to answer your question about, selling your business, or, we see people that win the lotto and then they lose it all, or they go to the moon, they land on the moon, or they win the Olympic gold medal, or they're hugely famous. And everyone sits back and going, why did they ruin their entire lives? Why are they not happy? Underneath it all, those things we accomplish, they're very important in terms of the ultimate fulfillment equation in life. It is important to be building confidence, to be growing, to be contributing. That is so, so, so important. But all those things are multiplied by your level of self-worth to get your level of fulfillment. And if your self-worth is 0, anything times 0 is 0. Your self-worth, if you struggle with this, and I'm going to break down the 3 main ways it can show up. And then I'll share how it showed up for me, even after I had hit such a great threshold in business success, right? So 3 of the main ways struggles with self-worth can show up for anybody listening. If we have low self-worth, that will often look like we stay stuck. We're stuck and we don't know why. And maybe it's that you want to find a life partner, but you're not getting on the dating app, or you're not going and socializing, or maybe you feel like you have a book inside of you to write, but you're not writing it and you don't know why. And you're scrolling Instagram for 8 hours a day. We will stay stuck and we'll tell ourselves, I just need to build more skill set, or I just need to put in more reps. And those things might be true. But often the reason we stay stuck is because underneath it all, deep down inside, we actually don't believe we're worthy of the thing. And remember, I talk about this in the book Worthy a lot, about how we don't rise to what we believe is possible. We will always fall to what we believe we're worthy of. And then when it comes to low to medium self-worth, what that often looks like is what you described earlier. It's what I've actually experienced a lot of, which is we'll go for the thing. We'll put ourselves out there, we'll go for the thing, and we'll either hit a ceiling. We'll want our business to be 6 figures or 7 figures. We'll hit a ceiling at 4 figures. We don't know why. Or we'll write the book. We'll actually write the book, but then we won't send it out. We'll paint, we'll put our art and our expression out there, but then we don't share it. Or we'll meet a potential partner or friend, or, sometimes as an adult, we want to make new friends, right? Or even looking for love, we'll meet a potential partner. They'll be amazing. And for some reason, we find ourselves not attracted to them, or we put them in the friend zone. So we will sabotage things when deep down inside, we don't believe we're worthy of them. To use your example earlier, we can maybe have a lot of success in our business, but somehow end up with nothing in our pocket. And the third way, by the way, if you have medium to high self-worth, what this looks like, and I bet you a lot of people who are listening to you and I right now are going to fall in this category, because a lot of achievers have this challenge. When you have medium to high self-worth, you'll go for the thing. You'll put yourself out there. You'll accomplish the goal. You'll get the 6-pack abs. You'll hit your fitness goal, or, you'll have the kids in the dream house, or you'll hit that level in your business. You'll do the thing. The world will tell you, great job. But underneath it all, you do not feel fulfilled. You feel like something's missing. You feel like it's still not enough. You feel like you're not enough. And then we solve that by thinking, I just got to go to the next level and the next level and the next level. And it becomes this perpetual cycle to nowhere because we're not fulfilled in the pursuit. And a lot of people say, well, wait a minute. If I believe I'm enough as who I am, if I learn to do that, if I learn to raise my self-worth, I'm going to lose my ambition. I don't want that. And it's actually couldn't be further from the truth. Like, the more we believe we're enough, I have found, the more ambitious you become, because even if you go for it and you fall flat on your face and you fail miserably, that might shake your self-confidence, but it cannot touch your self-worth. It cannot touch your self-worth because you learn that you're not defined by those external things. And so to answer your question, I thought, Eric, my whole life, I was not feeling enough because I just needed to accomplish more. And I just needed to build more self-confidence. And I found myself, I shared with you earlier that I'd always dreamed of, I'd always watch Oprah as a little girl in my living room. And so we all have our different heroes. For some of us, it's Superman or Batman, or, someone who's just completely changed the world, or a leader in our faith that we practice, or it could be whoever. For me growing up, I always dreamed of meeting Oprah. And I just want you to put yourself in this spot, because I think everyone listening might be able to relate to this in your own way. 39 years later, had hoped for that to happen. And I actually got a chance to meet her, and she invited me to her house for lunch. And now, just to put everyone in the shoes I was in, I was really confident. I was really self-confident at the time. I had built an amazing business. I was donating tens of millions of dollars to women who face the effects of cancer. And I was so proud of everything I was doing. And I was growing every day and contributing and really confident. I had a lot of self-confidence. And I went to Oprah's house and had a 3-hour lunch with her. But what I did not realize underneath it all was I did not have a lot of self-worth, and they're different. And at the time, what happened is I left her house after a 3-hour lunch, and she gave me her cell phone number. And she said, you can call me anytime. Call me anytime. And Eric, from the day I walked out, I did not call her for 4 years. For 4 years. And this is what low self-worth will do to you. You will sabotage stuff. And now in that 4-year window, I told myself stories like, oh, I just need to get like the perfect thing to say. Then I'm going to call her. Or, everyone probably wants something from her. So I'm going to prove I don't need nothing. I told myself all these stories until 4 years later, I realized the real reason I didn't call her was because deep down inside, I did not feel worthy of being her friend. And that day, I know that is a lie. That day, I literally imagined myself turning down the volume on my own self-doubt, right? Because our thoughts or our self-doubt live in our head. That is not who we are. And turning up the volume on that knowing that says, like, I am a kick-ass friend. I know I'm worthy of you. I know that. And that is the day I picked up the phone and called her. And that is the day I became obsessed with studying self-worth and with understanding, wow, you can achieve a lot and you can build a lot of confidence. But if you do not believe you are worthy of it, you will still sabotage. And sometimes people can accomplish stuff in business, but if they're struggling with self-worth, they'll sabotage their relationships or their friendships or their health and fitness goals. It can come out in different areas of our life, but our self-worth is our ceiling. And so it truly It truly is the one thing that changes everything. And, you cannot out-succeed your self-worth. You cannot out-succeed your self-worth. That is why it is so, you will still sabotage stuff no matter how much externally you achieve. And so that is the one thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Jamie Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.